Hello and welcome to the program. With the year 2030 drawing closer, experts say Nigeria's young people are not just part of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals journey, they are the engine driving it. On this year's International Youth Day, the call for action is louder than ever. This year's theme, Local Youth Actions for the SDGs and Beyond, puts the spotlight on grassroots initiatives as key drivers for achieving global targets and sustaining progress well past 2030. The United Nations says the global youth population aged 15 to 24 now stands at about 1.2 billion, around 16% of the world's population, making today's generation of young people the largest in history. Yet, many face steep challenges, such as unemployment, limited access to quality education, inadequate healthcare, the impact of climate change, and conflict. In Nigeria and beyond, social exclusion, gender inequality, and limited opportunities to take part in decision-making continue to hold back potential. Despite these obstacles, young Nigerians are leading transformative change, from climate action and technological innovation to education reform and community development. Experts say advancing the Sustainable Development Goals will require policies centered on skill development, job creation, and youth inclusion, ensuring young voices are heard and their needs reflected in decision-making. They say by investing in young people today, Nigeria must work to meet global demands while building a lasting legacy of leadership, innovation, and resilience for generations to come. International Youth Day is more than a celebration. It's a reminder that the future depends on empowering the energy, creativity, and determination of today's young generation. Well, let's hear from some youth leaders who are breaking barriers and making a difference for positive impact. Zainab Asheromu is a youth advisor and ambassador delegation of the European Union to Nigeria and ECOWAS. It's good to have you on, Zainab. Now, in line with this year's theme, Local Youth Actions for SDGs and Beyond, what role do you envision Nigerian youth playing in driving practical and transformative change towards achieving and sustaining the Sustainable Development Goals beyond 2030?
So beyond 2030, the role of young people, especially Nigerian youth, in driving the Sustainable Development Goals is very, very huge. There's literally a huge gap. And essentially, we young people, we have the resources, we have the skills, we have the energy, we have the ideas, we have the initiatives to essentially provide solutions to problems in our local communities. And because we live in these communities, we can see where the gaps are, we can see where the solutions need to be placed. And essentially, what we need is basically support from the government, from bilateral organizations to ensure that we're able to provide these solutions to these problems. But I know that the role of young people is very, very key in driving the Sustainable Development Goals, because there's a lot of problems going on. There's a lot of things that young people can plug into. And we are already plugging into it actually, because there's evidence that young people are already providing solutions to different SDGs, to quality education, to climate action, to gender equality, especially like the confidence community. What we are trying to bridge is the gender gap in education, in leadership, essentially helping young women become more aware of themselves so that they can become better leaders in whatever sphere they find themselves. So young people, we are definitely ready, and we definitely have what it takes to provide solutions to the problems that are plaguing our societies.
You are a leading voice in youth-led movements and issues. And what strategic partnerships would you say between government and the private industry would best enable young innovators to, scale their ideas nationwide and play a key role in Nigeria's development?
Okay, so young people are extremely important, especially in Nigeria, especially in Africa, mostly because we make up more than half of the population. We make up over 60% of Nigeria's population. So if you're saying that there are problems that exist, it means that the problems that exist are essentially for most people in population. That's more than half is young people. And the only people who can also provide solutions to those problems are the people feeling the problems. So it's very important that we are able to drive sustainable development in terms of nationality or even globally, because we have the numbers. Beyond the numbers, it means that we have the energy, we have the skills, even though there could still be a lot of upskilling. I don't take that out of it, but we already have the skills, we have the energy, we have the ideas, which is very important. The most important part is the mindset. So if we already have all of those things, it means that we have what it takes to drive national development. And beyond having what it takes, we are already driving national development. There are so many young people in society today with different many initiatives that are actually doing real work. I could say, for example, the Lagos State Youth Ambassadors, led by Ambassador Obadari Adenekon. They're doing fantastic work in terms of providing solutions to problems that exist in different aspects of Lagos. And I'm mentioning them because I was a former Apex Lagos State Youth Ambassador. And handing over, it meant that we needed to hand over to a team of young people who are vibrant, a team of young people who are passionate about providing solutions to those problems. So in doing that, they are also building themselves in terms of skills, in terms of professional development, in terms of networking. But essentially, they are also plugging those holes that the government or private organizations might not necessarily be able to reach, because they are the ones who live in those communities. So they're providing those solutions by creating impact, by creating projects that would address those problems. So yes, we are very important in driving national and global development.
Now, this year's theme for the World Youth Day focuses majorly on climate action, education reform, and inclusive economic growth. Now, what mechanisms and strategies do you think can ensure the deliberate and effective integration of youth-led initiatives into national policy frameworks, addressing these issues?
So strategic partnerships between private organizations and the government. I think I would give an example, really, if that's permitted. One of the initiatives that I really resonate with, that I really enjoy seeing, is the Sterling One Foundation. And then they have partnerships with both the Lagos State government, they have partnerships with the United Nations office in Nigeria. So essentially, what they do is bring together NGOs, they bring together young change makers to have discussions about these things. And even beyond the discussions, it translates into partnerships, it translates into collaborations, it translates into funding. So there has to be that space of government and other private organizations, different many private organizations. Their CSR should not just be handing out stuff to people every year. There should be that place of doing CSR that is sustainable, or doing CSR that is really, really impactful in society. So what private organizations can do is to identify those NGOs that are already doing the work, and then find a way to collaborate to bring in the government, so that it's sort of like a trilogy, sort of something that they can all come together and provide solutions to that problem.
On a final note, Zainab, young people have been unable to make the impact that they should on national development. Why is this the case? I mean, what are the key factors hindering the capacity of young people now to contribute effectively?
Okay, thank you very much for that really interesting question. You know, when you ask your questions, what is coming to my mind are already examples of people I know and examples of the things I've done in the past, because it's literally a continuum, right? So there are real life examples to back these things up. So, for example, the Lagos State Youth Policy was recently reviewed, and I was the youngest committee member that was reviewing the Lagos State Youth Policy. And particularly in terms of climate change, in terms of environmental sustainability and climate action, I made sure that it was a separate pillar. I made sure that the committee included this climate action as a separate pillar, because it's something that everybody should pay attention to, even the government, especially the government, private organizations, individuals. So I made sure I told everybody we need to include climate action as a separate pillar, that PPPs, as public-private partnerships, and different MDAs, different agencies in Lagos State and even beyond, hopefully, will be able to see and implement, because it's something that's really important. If it's a separate pillar, They know that it's really important and that they have to particularly pay attention to it. Another example that's coming to my mind is a friend that I know. Her name is Balikis Salaudin, and she's really doing fantastic stuff in the areas of climate. She's doing fantastic stuff, especially in the areas of agriculture. And I know that she has this very strong partnership with governments around in Nigeria, but especially Lagos State government. I think also with the Kwara State government as well, in terms of essentially integrating the work that she does into their different policies. So she serves as a committee member on different policy working groups. She serves as, I think the particular one I know is a technical working group for youth development in Lagos State. So if somebody like that is on such a committee, it means that whatever policy will be written or whatever policy will come out of that would be something that was youth led. And she also has her own initiatives that she's pushing that are being also supported. So those kind of avenues for young people to be included in such conversations would definitely ensure that their initiatives are integrated and their voices are also imputed in such policy documents.
Zainab Asheromu, Youth Advisor and Ambassador Delegation of the European Union to Nigeria and ECOWAS, it's been a pleasure talking with you on the program. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. We'll take a quick break. The conversation will continue shortly. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We're still discussing this year's World Youth Day with its theme, Local Youth Actions for the SDGs and Beyond. My next guest, Obadare Adenekon, is the Apex Youth Ambassador, Lagos State. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Obadare. Now, Nigerian youths, as you know, make up the major part of global population, including Nigeria. Yet, you know, they are not fully involved in nation building. In your opinion, what factors would you say are limiting Nigerian youths from fully participating in the country's development?
Well, one major factor, I would say limitation, is limitation to access to education, access to opportunities, and access to platforms where these policies are being made. And, you know, that is why I would always commend the Lagos State Ministry of Youth and Social Development for creating a platform for young people in Lagos State through the Ibile Youth Academy, where young persons are trained on leadership, entrepreneurship, and, you know, civic engagement.
As you would know, for this year's World Youth Day, the United Nations is calling for local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond. Give us your take on what the Nigerian government should do to support and empower youth in achieving the SDGs.
The Nigerian government can start by decentralizing supports so that every young person across every, at the grassroots level, across every local government in Nigeria, have equal access to opportunities, to funding. And then secondly, I believe that there should be a clear pathway on how young people would actively get engaged in SDG decision platforms or where platforms where SDG decisions are being made in Nigeria, so that it can also be inclusive. They can make their voice known, and it can be very inclusive of young people.
Let's now talk about youth development. What can the government do, you know, to effectively drive initiatives in Nigeria? Youth leaders like you have underscored youth development as the foundation of significant progress. So what would you recommend to drive this initiative?
Well, I would say the government should ensure that there is enough investment in education that matches today's job market, and that they are supporting entrepreneurship through access to real funding, to finance, and that young people that are change makers across Nigeria are currently taking steps towards achieving one or two of the SDGs should be supported, should be encouraged.
I would really love to ask you this. Tell us, what you would say are the key factors that hinder the capacity of youth coming down to Nigeria as well, to contribute effectively to a national development. Because a lot of people believe that, they don't want to do so.
Well, I mean, one of the I don't know if I should say obvious, but yes, one of the obvious factors is um, when there is this notion that young people do not have the will or are not there yet to make certain decisions, right? And the truth is that young people have a very innovative mindset. We are very energetic with lots of ideas flooding our minds. So the government should just ensure that young people are actively carried along, um, you know, in every decision making, policies that are being made before they're implemented, that young people are carried along, that they are on those tables to ensure that it is inclusive of every one of us.
You are the Apex Youth Ambassador of Lagos State. Enlighten us on the initiatives implemented by the Lagos State government to drive youth development in the state. We know that the state government is quite particular about youth development, but take us through, the initiatives implemented by the government.
Well, I would say that the Lagos State government is, they are really trying because from my knowledge, before certain policies that affect the youth goes out, youth bodies, young people are usually brought together. And, there's usually like a stakeholder meetings where we whole year we listen and then our decisions are aired as well. And, the feedback from our decisions are taken back, worked on, and if there is a need for that policy to be reworked on, it is reworked on, and the policies are implemented. So I would say that the Lagos State government, through the Lagos State Ministry of Youth, are currently doing a lot. In fact, because the Lagos State government wants to ensure that that we young people actually understand how this whole processes works, how the government space works. As I mentioned before, that is why the Ibile Youth Academy was established. And through the Ibile Youth Academy, the Lagos State government sponsors young people on a study tour internationally, where they learn other practices there, bring it back to Lagos, Nigeria, and work on it to ensure that they join in nation building. So I would give the Lagos State government an A+ on youth inclusivity.
Let's also talk about the youth themselves, especially Nigerian youth. Now, do you agree with the general notion that they are unwilling to fully participate in decision-making processes rather? I mean, what can be done, to change this narrative and see a true difference in how things are done presently?
Well, I feel like it still boils down to we young people. So many young persons out there believe that they have this belief that even if the platform is given to them, like they won't still be given the opportunity to speak, or their voice is not really going to be whatever it is that they're giving out, whatever opinion that they have is not going to be taken seriously. And because of that, most young people want to take a step back, do not want to show interest in all of these things, but however, there are lots of young people in Lagos State in Nigeria that are currently doing a lot and would continue doing a lot. I mean, even the Lagos State Youth Ambassadors, we've had the 5 divisions. We've implemented projects across the 5 divisions of Lagos State: Ikeja Division, Badagry, Ikorodu, Lagos, and Ekpe. And each of these projects have gone ahead to empower other young people who have seen the magnitude of what young persons like them are doing, and have also come on board to ensure that they are also change makers. So I would say that it's just for young persons, we young people, to kind of change our mindset on some things. And as much as we are changing our mindset on some things, the government also needs to continue encouraging us to ensure that our voices are heard, that when we give opinions on certain things, that it is being considered, and that it's not just being thrown away after we've had the whole decisions, the old talks in the room and everything. Then it comes to implementation, and then we are all on our own. So they should also encourage us, so that because Tibile Youth Academy, we have a slogan: build the youth, build the nation. So meaning, when the youths are being built, the nation is being built.
We'll wait to see what the future holds, for what the future will bring for today's youths and youths in going forward. Let me say that. Now, Badari Adeneko, Apex Youth Ambassador, Lagos State, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us. We truly, truly appreciate it. And that's all for this episode of the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.